Hello and welcome to another video from Auto Night. In this video you'll see me change what was possibly 25-year-old power steering fluid on the Z3. I don't know when this power steering fluid was last changed, if it ever has been. The level's okay, but occasionally when I'm driving I do get a rather strange noise from the steering when I turn it left or right. It's a kind of cross between a honking noise of a goose and a mooing noise from a cow. So the first thing to do is to change the fluid. My initial research found that these power steering systems hold between 0.7 and 0.8 of a litre, but looking on the Castrol oil selector on their website it suggests 1.2. We'll see how much we drain out. As you can see here in the handbook, it states that ATF is the fluid required for the power steering system on these cars, and back in the late 90s that would have been Dexrod 3. So I bought these two, great German brand, Manol, £15 for 2 litres on Amazon, a very good price. I'll just spin this round so you can see the specs there. Hopefully that's not too blurred. There are a couple of ways of changing the fluid. Some people just siphon out whatever is in the reservoir, fill it back up, run it, siphon it out again, fill it back up, and just repeat until ultimately the fluid all gets replaced. But I want to drain it all out instead. Refill it, run it again, drain it out again, and refill. So I'll have decent fresh fluid and hopefully less contaminants from the old. Now this here is the power steering cooler. It just takes the power steering fluid into the airflow ahead of the radiator. Now these are quite prone to corrosion, and you will see there is some here. Now I want to give that a clean up, and I hope that in doing so I don't expose a pinhole or something, because if I do it will spring a leak and then I will need to have a new power steering cooler. They are available on eBay. Quite often they've been refurbished or repainted because they are prone to corrosion, as I said. Now just in that area there are some rubber hoses that connect to this, and I'm hoping to drain the system by removing one of those hoses. I will have to remove this cover down here at the bottom to access that, but the good news is I recently replaced all the bolts for this when I had the bonnet cable issue, so the bolts should come undone very easily because the previous ones had just turned to dust. We've got just 3 8mm bolts on each side here to remove. And with these removed, this shield can be lowered very easily, which immediately gives us access to this power steering connection here. This hose joins the cooler on the left hand side of the front here. There is a bit more corrosion here. Now taking this all off and cleaning it up is beyond the scope of this video, but this has highlighted the need for a future job, and for this reason I may not worry about that other area now that I highlighted earlier in this video. Not today anyway. And before embarking on this job I ordered this from Amazon. Wasn't very expensive, selection of crimp type clips. It even came with that. It was a good deal actually. It's always useful to have these. You can never have too many of these. I have a bowl in place for draining, and using some side cutters you can either cut this off together or just loosen it. I've snapped this off, and we can now remove what remains of this old clip. And release this pipe, hopefully do a better job than I just did because it came straight off, covering me and the ground in fluid. Old ATF absolutely stinks. I'm going to release the cap, which will allow air to enter the system and allow it to drain more effectively. This is draining out now. That has pretty much stopped draining now, but I've got both wheels off the ground and I'm now going to turn it lock to lock with the engine off, because I don't want to run the pump without any fluid, which will stress it. And to ensure maximum drain, the vehicle is levelled off, and having levelled off the vehicle, more is draining out. Just refitting this power steering hose here. I'm going to just temporarily fix that with a cable tie because I will be draining this again. Out of curiosity, I just want to see how much we got out of that system. Looks like 0.75 of a litre, which means we've got plenty of fluid to flush this through and then refill. Is a little noisier than usual. Turning lock to lock and ensuring that the fluid level was maintained soon silenced the pump. And I'm just going to leave that a short while to circulate before redraining it. See if I can do a slightly better job this time of not getting it over everything. That's a bit better. We'll let that drain. Much cleaner this time, isn't it? Nowhere near as murky. This feels like a much more effective way of doing this rather than just siphoning out little bits here and there and hoping that it all gets replenished. That is pretty much it now. Turns lock to lock, let it drain. It's like my little trick there for keeping this pipe angled down, putting some weight on it. I've just selected the correct sized clip, which it seems was the 18.5, the second largest. And that's nicely crimped into position. This under tray can be refitted with the 8mm bolts. And we can now refill. I know there's 0.25 of a litre in here. We can now lower the car, get it off any jacks or axle stands, and then just set the final level. Level has been set, it's nearly at the maximum. I'm going to take this car for a decent test drive now, then let this all cool down and re-establish that level on a cold engine. When I'd finished working on the car, it had a really good road test, and then the car was put in the garage overnight. It's now the next day, and I've just checked the level. It needed a tiny little bit, and the level is now correct. That is it for another video. Very satisfying job. Nice clear fluid, so clear that I can now see the bottom of the reservoir through the fluid. It wasn't like that before. I did notice some corroded pipes underneath. Some of the power steering metal pipes are rusty, to be expected, but if they get to the stage where they need doing, naturally I will replace them. Hopefully the honking and the mooing is cured. It tended to happen when the engine was hot, after a long journey when I go to park. Sort of slow speed manoeuvres, turning left or right, but I will report back as to whether or not that is fixed. If not, I guess worst case scenario it'd be a pump. Lots more videos to come. Just to give you an idea, still got the front suspension arms to do, drop links and the trap rods and ends. I have also got another set of fuel tank straps. I did decide to invest in the 2-piece version, which saves dropping the rear axle down. That will be a video in itself coming fairly soon. I also now have the cross brace that goes under the car between the front subframe and the floor pan. I've got a second-hand refurbished one of those. That is on its way, and I also have the bolts for that. So these will all form separate videos. Lots coming with this car. There really is a lot to do, but I'm trying not to rush it. I just want to bring you a decent video on each item as and when it's done. Please don't forget to subscribe. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you and goodbye.